Okay, good morning. Today we're going to look at, or this week we're going to look at the dynamics of interpersonal relationships. This topic is continued more specifically in chapter 10. Chapter 9 is really an overview. So what I want you to do before we get started is to write down the names of three people, hopefully a friend, a coworker, or classmate, and a romantic partner, possibly a family member. I'm thinking more like a cousin or second cousin as opposed to a sibling. You can pick different kinds of friends. You can pick people that you had a relationship with and that you no longer do. Those are fine. Okay. So, section one, we're going to look at why we form relationships. This is pretty, I believe, self explanatory. So, the first one is appearance. It is very important at the beginning. In fact, people who do speed dating will realize that what they're most interested in is how the other person looks. As time goes on, this is less important. The personality, whether the the niceness of the person becomes more important than what they look like. So, okay. Another big one is similarity. If we see that the person that we have a relationship with, or we want to form a relationship with someone who has something very similar to us, for example, you're from the same economic class, or you have the same level of education, or you have the same values. Not necessarily, although maybe when you're kids, it was someone who also was playing Pokemon. Right? Similarities validate us because we say, "Oh, this person has the same characteristics that I do, and therefore I must be an okay person." We also assume that people who are similar to us will like us because why not? We're very similar and they must like themselves. So of course they would like us. Number three seems to be opposite of number two. Like, what do you mean we're attracted to people who are like us and we're attracted to people who are different from us? The complementarity means that the other person's differences complement or complete. They fill in the gaps for something that we don't have. So, for example, if you realize that you're not always that good at managing money, you might be attracted to someone who seems to be on top of things because you think that maybe those skills will rub off on you. And obviously, any successful relationship has to find a way to balance these similarities and differences. Right. The next one, number five, is the social rewards theory. People sometimes initially don't like this. They say, well, what? Are you saying I get into a relationship because I know that I'm going to get uh, jewelry and money and something like that? And no. It's basically at some level you are doing a cost benefit analysis. You are saying, what am I getting out of this relationship? What do I have to put into this relationship? And if the costs, the undesirable outcomes exceed the rewards, the outcomes that you want, oops, cat's playing with a mouse, a fake mouse, then you might decide it's time you need to go. However, it's not quite that simple. What you're going to look at is what they call the minimum standard of acceptable behavior. If you just say, okay, I hate it when people are late, but it's okay if I will ignore the fact that my friend is late 90% of the time because that 10% makes up for it. What people also do is called the comparison level of alternatives, where you're saying, okay, um, this is what I'm getting out of this relationship. If I end this relationship and go to another relationship, am I going to get more? And some experts posit that this is why people, women especially, might stay in an abusive relationship because one, sometimes the guy is nice, And two, they figure no matter what, they're going to be in a similar situation. So this really is a something important in the forming a relationship. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, another one is competency. We want to be around people who are good at something because we hope that their skills will rub off on us. In kindergarten, my daughter really liked this girl who, even in kindergarten, this young girl had a phenomenal voice and she really wanted to be friends with her. I think, thinking that this friend's voice would somehow magically transfer to her. So, or you know someone who's really good at playing the guitar, or they're a good soccer player, or they really have good people skills. However, if you're around someone and they're like too perfect, you don't like that. You figure that you start to think that, well, they probably uh, they think they're so wonderful because they have this skill. So we like people who have some flaws because we know that we have flaws too, and we figure that if this person has a flaw, they must be a real human being. Okay. Number 6 is familiar to anyone who had a friend in the neighborhood when they were growing up. We're close to people that we interact with frequently, possibly even people that you interact with in cyberspace. So, because you are thrown together with this person regularly, you might tend to you like that person, or maybe after a while you decide you don't like them because you see them all the time and you start thinking, oh my gosh, I know when I see this person they're going to say this. I tell you, I had a colleague who, whenever we saw her, her big thing was that the air quality at Tunxus was bad, and she would inevitably go, Tunxus is killing us. And then I would go, yep, time to switch to pseudo listening. Okay. The last one is disclosure. So if somebody discloses something to you, some personal information, you most likely, unless it's something that, like when they say, I killed a man once just to watch him die, if someone discloses something like that, you'll probably run. But if someone discloses, I mean, even something like, oh, I really liked this movie, and I really loved the Avengers Endgame and blah blah blah, and you say, oh, they disclosed this to me, they must trust me. Okay, so if someone discloses to you, chances are you say, oh, this person trusts me, so because I know this person has trusted me because they've disclosed, therefore I trust them, so I will disclose. And then that person says, oh, so and so disclosed something to me, they must trust me, therefore, so it becomes a cycle. So if you disclose something and the other person doesn't say anything, then that's not really satisfying. I think you get into that cost benefit analysis. So reciprocity is key to a satisfying disclosure. And you have to be careful about when you disclose. At what point is it okay to share information? I think I used the example in class at one point of, oh my gosh, my daughter's cat, Ted Mosby in How I Met Your Mother, who is always like on the first date saying to someone, I love you. Bad disclosure. Too soon. Okay, so that is the first part. And oops, what I want you to do, cat's walking on my book. What I want you to do right now is to think about those 3 people that you wrote down and what were the factors that caused you to form a relationship. Not what kept you in the relationship, but what made you want to start a relationship.